episode 2, baby.
Really?
Yeah.
We've done this 3 times already?
We have.
Yeah. So can you tell me something that I've been curious about? Why is it that podcasts and TV shows and all that start at episode 0 these days?
Episode 0 is kind of like the dry run, like...
It's the beta version.
Yeah, and, in my experience of IT background, 0 is the first number in binary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
Oh. I appreciate you clearing that up for me.
Yeah, no problem. So, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's Brett and Mitchell, Real World Recovery. We are recording this live, so you are back in time.
Yeah.
Welcome, time travelers.
Yeah. How's it feel to be tomorrow? Let us know in the comments down below.
It's yesterday.
Oh, fair.
We're in
fair
tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't been sleeping much, so
We're ahead of the game.
for once.
Yeah, I know.
God.
Yeah, wanted to do a big topic today for us. It is timely.
Yeah. It is.
The big topic, I guess, is big decisions. We both made a pretty big decision in our lives to cut away or to leave a job without having another one ready to go.
Yeah, it was, I've done such things in the past, but it hasn't ever felt so, certain. It's been like screw you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over it. This was more, the writing's on the wall, and, I think it came down to a lot of both of us being in that weird comfort zone where it just doesn't feel right. And, if you're not growing,
yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like there's a lot of parallels with the decision to
quit using.
To get clean, to get vulnerable, ask for help.
Yeah.
And so I think, the adult decision, I guess, to make this kind of change in life, and not the reactionary, like
right.
You were talking about, childish decision to be like,
yeah,
I'm gonna burn it all to the ground, screw this.
Yeah.
And this time it feels good. Yeah. Like, it feels like the right choice.
It felt very rational. It felt like okay, we're never gonna grow. Neither one of us were ever gonna grow out of our positions. They're trying to make our job harder because they don't understand what our job is.
Yeah.
And it was very much like being in a toxic relationship. I mean, all of us have been in a toxic relationship.
Yep.
Where, either you're the one giving too much or you're taking too much.
Yeah.
And, it's just a negative feedback loop where everybody's just getting more and more angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
And you don't leave because it's comfortable, because you feel safe in that codependency. And so I think that, it's easy to get into that situation with a job. Well, I need the money to pay rent.
Right.
You know what I mean? But here's the thing. If you have a few months of rent saved up, why not try to do something more fulfilling with your life?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing that has happened for me, having some time and, being clean for a while and putting some work in on myself, is I'm starting to listen to my intuition more, and I'm starting to trust my gut.
Right.
And really, listening to those messages of, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Something's not clicking here, or there's something better
out there,
that I'm missing.
Yeah.
And, for me, this was the first job that I got out of treatment.
Right.
So I've been at this job for
years.
Today is 3 years and 10 months.
Right.
And so 2 days ago was my last day at that job. So I'd been there that whole time. And so, like, this was the big decision since making the big decision to get clean.
Sure.
And I had that gut feeling again of, like, something's wrong. Like, it just wasn't feeling like like you said, I didn't feel like I had any more room to grow there. I had done everything that I could. And I left there, I didn't have animosity.
Right.
Like, I grew a lot professionally. I learned a lot. I was able to build a team. I built systems. I built processes. I feel like
your system was amazing. I mean, it allowed me to. I mean, you know what I did with it.
Yeah.
And that's part of like what the toxicity was, is that you came to them and you gave them every opportunity to explain what it is and how it is we're doing things, and they just refused to listen. They refused to, like, actually put their hands on it until they did, and they just, if they're gonna break it, dude, I don't need to clean up their mess.
But an earlier version of me, the version that would have burnt it all to the ground,
right, would have had a lot of resentment.
Would have held a whole lot of resentment for that. But now, between the things I've learned in recovery, Stoicism, and all of the other philosophy and mindset things, I was able to go to it with the approach of, like, the things that were in my control were exactly that. I went to them. I was able to say, here are the things that I've done. Here's what I would like to do and show you. Here's all of my concerns. That was everything that was in my control.
Yeah.
And what they did with that information,
wholly inappropriate.
But it was out of my control.
Yeah, no, you handled it with grace.
And so the fact that they chose to do what they did or did not do with it,
sure, yeah,
out of my control. And beyond that, the thing, and this is like so amazing to me that I was able to view it this way, was like, when they went the direction they did, I looked at it like, well, that's exactly what I needed to hear.
Right.
Because now I can just leave.
Right. I mean,
and go do this other thing that I apparently need to do.
Right.
Like, and instead of being angry, resentful, stressed out, pissed off, I was able to just look at it as like, well, that's exactly what I needed to hear, apparently. Like,
yeah, I mean, my attitude was like, yeah, it was good while it lasted.
Yeah.
But time to do something else.
And reflecting on it, I never would have been that person.
No.
At all.
Oh, there's no way. I would have burned that to the ground.
Ask 10 random people that know me, all 10 of them, without thinking about it, would be like, no, he would have, like, burnt that down in a second. And, that...
I do know.
I'm proud of the fact that I've turned that corner. And...
it's really easy when you're in the throes of active addiction to just scorch earth everything. Like, like, oh, well, you're not going to do things my way. I'm going to ruin it for all of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, I feel a little bit for the team members that we left behind. But I think now that they see it the way we saw it, which, here's the thing. We all have that on our resume now.
Yeah.
And if none of us are going to have gotten fired, so, there's other companies that actually want to do what we were doing, and it shouldn't be that hard for them to find a job doing that.
And
I mean, me personally, I'm, you guys know I'm going back to school, a video in the making of that.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it was, for me, it was like one of those things where, you know, like you said, the writing was a little bit on the wall, but it was a moment to say, what is it I really want to do with my life? I mean, I'm 42 years old. I'm not getting any younger. And am I just going to jump from, you know, $19 an hour, $20 an hour job for the rest of my life? I mean, that's not really enough to do anything except for, you know, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's enough to pay your bills, and that's about it. And
Right.
it's not even just about money. It's like, I genuinely want to help people, and I wasn't helping anyone there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like, hey, you know, like, sit back and actually, like, reflect on the direction that I wanted to take my life. And I think that's why I keep coming back to that comfort, because, like, being comfortable there, I mean, I was just going through the motions because I was making a lot of money going through the motions. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life going through motions.
Yeah.
I want there to be purpose and directive. And, and it was so kind of nice to be able to be in a spot in my head where I could reflect on that and make that educated decision. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm right there with you, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
now here we are doing this. So this is the thing that wouldn't have happened if this didn't happen. I don't know. Maybe, but
maybe
we wouldn't have had nearly as much time and energy to direct towards it.
Yeah, and I think part of it was like that was the spark that actually like was the motivation to really jump in with both feet. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, it's that mindset of just like, well, that's what I need, you know. Right. Like I'm glad that's how it went. Right. Like so, yeah. I figure, you know, I wanted to take that event and kind of dive into a few things, and I know that with you going to school and also along, you know, your multiple years in recovery here as well, you've had multiple events similar through the process. So like,
sure,
I've got, you know, my notes here, so I want to play a little bit of.
Brett likes notes, and I like to think about it in the moment.
Yeah, well, I like to do that too, but I like to kind of give myself guideposts. Otherwise, ADD brain goes all over the place. So, and I figure, you know, having a few things that we can highlight along the way, once we actually get good at the post-production, we might be able to someday do timestamps for people in the video. So
God forbid we learn how to video edit.
Yeah, hey, someday.
Speaking of which.
Someday.
What were we saying about learning how to edit?
Yeah.
We had a few technical difficulties there, but we are back.
We're learning how to edit.
Yeah.
But it was
forced out of our comfort zone.
It was the perfect spot to, you know, force us to learn how, because, you know, it was literally right when we said that. So, but it brought us right to the questions that, you know, I wanted to bring up, and I think one of the, you know, biggest questions pertaining to making big changes, like leaving a job, deciding to get clean, any of those big changes in life, you know, are going to bring big kind of fears and apprehensions. Yeah. And so, like, you know, what are some of the common ones you think that people come across?
Well, you know, a lot of it is just that, you know, people want to be comfortable. I mean, that's why we do things like build houses and have fuzzy blankets. There's got to be, like, some sort of something holding us, keeping us warm. You know what I mean? Whether it be, well, they love me in the toxic relationship, or I need money to pay my bills, so I have to stay in this dead-end job that treats me like poop. You know, it's there's a real fear that it's not gonna be okay, that you have to you have to keep doing these things that you hate doing, otherwise it might be different. When it comes to using, it's like the same thing. People like to be dissociated. When you're not part of the problem, then it doesn't exist. Whether you are or not is
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think also disconnecting from it and externalizing a lot of the causes and saying, well, if this would happen or if that would happen, or
the what ifs,
as well as when it comes to what might fix it,
right?
And putting the responsibility of, well, this would need to happen for things to get better, or if this happened, then things would be better.
You see that a lot in interpersonal relationships, where it's like, well, for instance, speaking for myself, I'm sure many of you have had these same things crop up, where it's like, well, if only my partner would do this differently, then I would be happy.
Yeah.
If we wouldn't have to argue if they did this and this and the other thing. And you're not like looking at what your role is in that.
Yeah.
And if you are in a relationship with a person, a job, a drug, and you think that if you can just do it a little bit different and it's going to be different, I think that, you're kind of mistaken. You're not really looking at the big picture. And zooming out and looking at the big picture is terrifying, because then you see all of the things that aren't working for you as well.
Right.
And, it goes back to being comfortable,
Yeah.
Will no one love me again? Will I never find another job? Will I never be able to drink a beer again?
Right.
That's terrifying. That's one of the reasons why they say, just for today, because, man, like, thinking, if you would have told me 3.3 months ago or 3.3 years ago that I would never be able to drink again, that would have made me really sad.
Right. Yeah.
Because I loved it and it loved me and it was comfortable.
Yep.
And that's scary.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But doing it a little bit day by day now, I can't imagine myself drinking ever again.
Right.
So, and I can imagine myself with another job.
Yep.
I can imagine myself in a different relationship. I'm not in one. And no plans, but it's.
Yeah, and I think also
it's tenable.
What happens when we do that is I'm giving up my ability to do anything about the situation. If only this would happen, or if they would do this, then things would change.
You're relinquishing control of the end result.
And I'm making excuses for why I'm not doing anything about it.
Right.
Like, why am I not doing what I have control over? Like, oh, well, I'm waiting for this to happen.
Right.
Well, you're going to wait forever. Like,
it forever does end at a certain point, but...
I mean, yeah. I mean...
Oh, man, I heard it. I can't remember it. Never mind. I'm just going to...
But I guess my point is that it just becomes this exercise in futility of, like, there's always going to be something external then that it's easy to offload, the responsibility or the excuse to, and it just, for me, it just seems like there's something that can be taken, the action can be taken on, no, regardless of how small, but it is big, and not to downplay the scary and the anxiety that comes from it.
Sure.
But the flip side for me as well is from the what if I fail is what if I succeed.
Yeah,
like
and that's almost equally as terrifying.
It's the other side of the same coin.
To put that in perspective, and if I already said this, then we can re-edit some more. But it's like being drunk at family functions.
Yeah.
Like, I had no responsibility to how other people
Exactly.
felt. I mean, people expected me to be drunk and expected the crazy.
Right.
And they would just write it off. I mean, maybe they didn't in retrospect. But, it wasn't like I had a responsibility to be the adult in the room.
Exactly.
And now it's like... you're doing all these things and people are like, they're like, oh, well, now we expect you to pay your rent and not call us and ask for money. We expect you to like show up and be there for family members who need you. And it's like, man.
And not only, again, those external expectations and accountability, I've now got it for myself.
Right. Yeah. I have to go to the gym every day.
I've now set some expectations for myself.
I was sick all week, and I'm like beating myself up every moment that I'm not in the gym.
And the thing for me that has changed in that regard is there's been kind of a fundamental shift. And it's slow going. I still catch myself, but what I've been really working on as far as those expectations and things of that nature is I kind of set higher standards and expectations for myself.
Oh God.
Than I do for anybody else. Mm-hmm. Like, I try to be stricter with my own expectations than I am with what I expect from others. Mostly because it's out of my control. I don't know what somebody else is going through. And trying to remember to just give that grace that I would hope for. And also,
well, we're all our own worst critic.
and also, I think I want to believe that this is true, and I don't remember where I heard it, but somebody said that everybody all the time is given their best.
Theoretically.
Because
right.
I just have to assume that
everybody else is at least trying.
That if they could do better in that moment, they would be.
Sure.
Like, because no matter what I'm doing at any given point in time, like, there's all sorts of factors happening, rattling around up in the squirrel cage.
Sure.
That are impacting my ability to do any given thing at any given moment. And I'm trying my best in that moment. And so is everybody else. So I try to...
I really love that. I am maybe so cynical that I've never... Like, that perspective didn't really occur to me.
Yeah, and it's really kind of...
Which is probably wild for you to hear me say, but I mean, that was really... that's really well thought out. It's giving me pause.
Yeah.
Because I assume everybody's doing what they have to. And that's a very cynical view. Unfortunately. Maybe it's from my own shortcomings. You know, we all tend to judge others, but we need to be judged most on our own, or by ourselves. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to meditate. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. But I think that's a really wonderful idea. And I don't think that... I mean, you know me pretty well.
Yeah.
You got me speechless. Way to be.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was a good one. I heard it the other day in one of my podcasts I listened to in the morning on Mindset, and I was just like, I like that. It makes a lot of sense, because yeah, like some days I know that I could, in the right mindset, in the right circumstances, maybe have done a better job on something.
Sure.
But where I was at that day doing that thing, that was the best I could do. Mm-hmm. Like, I gave it my all for what I could do in that moment.
Sure.
And I just have to assume that that's the same for anybody else. Like, they were doing the best they could at that given moment. Mm-hmm. If they could have done better, they would.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, I think that applies a lot. I mean, when I'll just download a bunch of music and then mix it all together, having not ever heard the whole tracks before, and then I'm like, I listen back and I'm like, oh, this is trash, and it's like, well, dude, you didn't listen to any of it. Like, you literally just mixed the line. It's more exciting that way, but
yeah,
you know.
So, I don't know. It was something I thought was pretty cool.
Good stuff, man.
Thanks. Yeah. Not an original, but worth sharing.
You know, it's all right for us to be intellectually bankrupt sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and really, like, in the world of meme culture, are we not literally just all sharing ideas?
Hey, since the dawn of creation, man, that's what, you know, I think is a beautiful thing about human nature is great minds share ideas. We discuss ideas. Like, you know, weak minds talk about people.
Oh, yeah.
Average minds, they just talk about things. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
I'm all about talking about ideas.
I've seen that one on the internet too.
Yeah.
And on the wall of, like, you know, certain, you know, places that I've worked.
Yeah. Well, you know. Sometimes there's good ones there.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So, another question that I wanted to throw your way here, because this one's one of those gut feeling ones that, for me, gets a little tricky, because I'm the type of person that likes to literally, like, look at spec sheets and stuff, and, like, I want the very objective, like,
yeah, I am very well aware of your love for Excel.
Yeah, so this one is harder for me from a feelings and intuition perspective, so I wanted to get your read on this. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you, like, have that intuition or, like, recognize when making a change or, like, pulling the trigger on that decision is really truly in your best interest, like, even if it feels risky, uncomfortable, dangerous, scary?
Well, I mean, you know, I got in my car and drove to Indianapolis on a lark earlier this year to go see the full eclipse. My decision-making process when it comes to big decisions is generally a lot of thinking about it, and, like, in a very probably unhealthy way. There's a lot of, like, running every single process in my mind over and over again to try to find every outcome. But generally when it's something fairly big, like one day something just snaps in my head and it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then I have a tendency to, like, hyper focus it and, like, put the amount of effort needed to get to the result that I want. Like, for instance, when I was in the car driving back from Indianapolis, it took 4 hours to get from Indianapolis to Chicago, which is 160 miles, and you can do the math. I was there for a long time doing a lot of nothing, and I was looking back at the pictures of myself that I took, the selfies, and I'm like, I am unrecognizable to me. I was very overweight. I looked very sad. I hadn't shaved in months. And I realized, much like I realized when I was done musing, like, this is, you're choosing to die this way. Is that really how you want to live until you die? And they answer both, in both those scenarios, is no. You know, I hit target weight last week. I probably gained it back because I've been sick. But, you know, to hit 175 pounds after being 236 pounds in April is an amazing amount of discipline and hard work. And for you and I to be where we are, you know, 39-ish months and 46.
Yep.
You know, for us to be where we are, it took a lot of dedication and it took a lot of hard work. And it was, you know, a similar decision. You had to cut things out that were bad for you. When it comes to, like, the job thing recently, for working, I'm kind of like you, where I'm looking at all the variables on a piece of paper. I mean, you know that I wrote everything out for this one. I generally don't quit jobs unless it's really that bad or something that much better comes along. I'm a little more, you know, risky when it comes to jobs, but like the health stuff and the mental health stuff, one day I just have to do it different. And then once I've made that choice, it just is, that's what it is. And, you know, do I believe that I have the disease of alcoholism? I'm not sure. But I know that I've done everything that I have control over to make sure that I have all the resources to not need to drink.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was that a good enough answer for you?
Yeah, it is. You know, mine are purely like physiological, like physical symptoms. Mostly after the fact. Once I made this decision, I instantly was getting better sleep.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Like, leading up to it, like, I knew there was something wrong because I wasn't sleeping through the night. I was getting up or not being able to get to sleep, or I was getting up at 2-3 in the morning and just anxious energy and insomnia and indigestion and migraines and acid reflux and just all of these physical symptoms that were my body telling me something was wrong. And
I mean, I'll get that as well. It's like gastrointestinal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm blaming my lack of sleep this week on not being able to breathe out of my nose, but
Yeah. Yeah. So that for me is a little bit more of a foreign department. So
I think that a lot of people that I've talked to, when they quit, you know, for good, when it comes to using, a lot of people said that there was just a moment where they knew they were done. And I think for a lot of us, I mean, you've said that you've had that moment.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I had that moment, and like, yeah, for me, I you know, contextualize it by saying, you know, hey, like, I realized that this is how I'm choosing to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know that that's the same emotion for everybody. I think a lot of people like to look on the brighter side and say that they wanted to change so that they were choosing a better way to live.
Yeah.
And a lot of the, you know, literature will say it, you know, we're both fans of NA, saying, finding a better way, you know.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I guess it comes back to my cynicism. But I think that there's a lot of what I've heard other people say, like, their moment was just like, this is it, and they were done.
Yeah.
I think that everybody should comment down below what their moment was. Share with us on Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. entire process, we want to get the feedback. You know, as much as we love hearing each other talk, and as much as we like talking to ourselves,
and then listening back to it while we're editing video.
yeah. We very much would like the
feedback from the community,
feedback, contributions, and all of that too. So very much interested in all of your stories. So would love to hear yours. So I found an interesting idea on this question. So in what ways can you reframe fear as a sign that you're on the right path for growth? And I've literally today was listening to a person talking on like the science of human nature and kind of ways that communities form. And
was it on YouTube?
It was a podcast. And
you should probably link it down below.
I can do that. He's doing like a 3 or 4 part series on the science of different things, and it was very fascinating. So one of the ways that human beings since the dawn of time have gotten together and formed communities, and I think that this is an interesting way to approach this as well, because of the way that recovery communities formed early on, you know, and developed these communities, and it's grown and thrived. I think that reframing the fear as awe, to see that thing that you're afraid of as something that like inspires this sense of wonder, and like you know nothing about it.
Sure.
Like it's foreign. It's this totally new, scary, but
kind of like how, you know, I have a fascination with lions, and I have many lions all over my apartment. A real life lion is terrifying, and it's terrifying because cats don't give a, they'll eat you. But like, it's an awe-inspiring.
But yeah,
I see.
But
I see what you're saying.
I think it'd be an interesting thought experiment, because
I do like that.
If you can take just that piece that is causing the fear response, like the fight or the flight response, away, and focus on the awe, the fascination,
right, then it's not so scary.
And then it's more of an inspiration and an attraction, and something to learn more about and become interested in.
Right.
And then you're drawn to it.
That kind of applies to my decision to go back to school. It's
yeah.
Like, you know, it was a lot of like, well, what else are you doing with your life? But
yeah,
it's also.
But I think that's why people are so into these like true crime podcasts and all of that. Like I feel like it's the same exact
that's more
thing.
Curiosity. It's a little bit different.
But I think it's the same like this. I think it's a very similar piece.
It's almost like I like fantasizing about what it would be like if it happened to you.
Yeah. Like there's
really
this sense of awe and fascination and with it, and so getting past that afraid, get rid of afraid, and you're awe. Like I had this thought about it, like just. That was what happened in my brain. I was just like,
of course it did.
Get rid of afraid, and it's awe. Like, I don't know. That's how it
Man.
Don't ask me how it works up there. It just that's what happened.
The king of the one-liners. Giving Stephen Wright a run for his money.
Hey man, I would kill for a Nobel Peace Prize.
My favorite thing, I went to see him a long time ago in the Kalamazoo Theater. He comes out with a guitar, and the stage light is reflecting off of it, and he like turns in his chair, and he's like, "That's funny. It didn't do that when I bought it." So good. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Yeah.
As I slam the desk and keep the microphone.
Hopefully nobody had eardrums or earbuds in.
I thought we gained that out, so it wouldn't be a thing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, if not, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I didn't test it with my earbuds, but hopefully the EQ mod did. But yeah, if you can still hear us, we tried.
We sure did our best in that moment.
We sure did. So yeah, we got a few minutes left here. One other couple of things.
I kind of love this that you thought of stuff and I just get to respond to it.
Yeah, man.
I'm so comfortable in this element.
I like it.
It's good.
Yeah. This is another one that's becoming a little bit more comfortable for me. It's was definitely a big challenge for me because I carried a lot of trauma. Someday, I'll maybe tell my whole story, but there's been a lot of baggage, a lot of trauma, and I carried a lot of guilt and blamed myself for a lot of things through the years, and so a lot of my use was me punishing myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
mine didn't start that way, but it ended that way.
Yeah. So what role does self-compassion play in big changes, especially when things don't go exactly as planned?
Oh man.
So
that's a very good question.
Yeah. Right.
So it's easy when things are going well.
Always.
To be compassionate for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't mean to take such a big pause there. I feel like my brain went in like 17 directions. If I want to relate it to school, so like what happens if I don't get an A on a test? Like what happens if I can only carry like a 3.4? I mean, I would be really disappointed in myself if my grades were that low at my age. That's like unacceptable. I mean, my grade point average in high school when I went was very high. So I feel like anything less than, like just shy of 4 is unacceptable to me. And it will be interesting to see how I handle that. As addicts, as many of you probably know, it's really easy to get down on yourself when things aren't perfect. And this goes back to your question earlier where, what do you do when things aren't perfect? How do you respond? And it used to be, curl up in the ball, take another shot, it just make it go away. And I think that going back to the job we just left, I had a benchmark for myself that was a lot higher than everybody else on the team, and I would get like a little upset if I didn't hit that in a week. I didn't want to have to work harder than I was, so I would be like, what am I doing wrong that in that same number of phone calls I wasn't getting the same result? You and I had many conversations where, what is it that we're doing? Both of us, we went back and forth with that one. And I think there was a point where, you know, you just said, hey, you know, if you're not feeling that you're doing it right, don't do it today. Do something else. And I think that was really instrumental into me looking, you know, at some other things in my life, like, you know, art. Like if I get up on my decks and I mix 3-4 tracks and I have train wreck twice, I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean? I'm not, and if I'm not feeling it, why am I going to create something that I'm not going to like? You know what I mean? And I think that's giving yourself grace, is it not?
Yeah.
You know, like the way I create art is I take it and I cut out whatever I'm trying to do, and then I stare at it for like a whole week until it clicks.
Yeah.
And then I do it really fast and hyper focused, like I said stuff earlier, circling back. It's something you have to learn because, you know, as addicts, we didn't give ourselves any grace. We were the worst person on the face of the planet, and nobody could tell us otherwise.
Yeah.
I know people who are still struggling. They're like, I'm just the worst person ever, and it's like, you're not yet. Yet.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, it's important to understand that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it goes back to your doing the best that you can in that moment. I don't have an answer to this question. I don't know how it is I do it. I mean, I will be mad at myself all day long, and when I wake up and meditate, I'm like, why were you like that?
Yeah, I hear you. My internal dialogue for this is all over the place.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
This is like literally my biggest challenge. Still, it's hard. It's really hard. I don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
And
great question, man.
Thankfully, I have a fantastic partner, and
yeah, you are very fortunate in that.
I even have a hard time listening to the nice things that she says. And I feel like I've gotten better at it, and believing the nice things that are said to me, but man, like, they're not echoed by nice things I say to me.
Right.
But
did you ever do like the little self-affirmations that they try to get us to do when we were in treatment? Like where it's like 3 nice things that you should say to yourself every morning, la la.
They'd take me all day.
They were the worst.
They would literally take me all day. What I've found that works are quotes from dead people I admire.
I mean,
like a couple of examples that I was able to, write without, having to think too much about it was Einstein and Edison. 2 of them that I go back to pretty regularly.
Edison was such a douche, though.
True, but
he did say some good things,
especially with what pertains to this. Einstein was my favorite with regards to this. He just said failure is success in progress.
Yeah.
Like, it's, effectively saying, like, it's only a failure if you stop.
Right.
And then Edison...
Well, and I do love that, too, because, just to touch it back to early recovery, I mean, somebody said earlier today, they were like, all of us have relapsed, many of us over and over and over again. But what separates us is that we didn't stop quitting.
Right. Yeah. And, then the Edison one, he's like, I haven't, he says, that he's never failed. He just found 10,000 ways that didn't work.
Right.
Like,
Well, he just didn't hire the right person yet to do it for him.
Yeah, or whatever it was.
I'm sorry.
Whatever it was, but and then there's several others that I could spout off depending on what the scenario was for me, but that is how my brain works a lot, is quotes. I like, they stick for me, and I've found that works for me, at least for a little temporary reprieve from that internal.
So I have artwork on like almost every square inch of my apartment. Most of it not my own. I mean, I own it, but it wasn't something that I did. I think for me, having the pictures, I can't do blank walls. Your guys' apartment and its lack of artwork drives me crazy. But it's because if I don't have the art and I just have blank walls, my brain immediately goes back into that like mode, and I can't. It's hard for me, you know what I mean? Like, obviously when I'm here with you, I'm interacting with you. But if I could, I would have a hard time sitting in this apartment by myself, because there's not enough to break my train of thought that's constantly trying to get going, you know what I mean? So I think that's kind of what I do. I don't know about inspirational quotes. I have one. Dang, I have a piece of art that I was meant for you, and it's still sitting in my apartment. I forget it every time I come over here, which is often now.
Yeah.
Well, I've had it for like 2 months.
Luckily, there'll be another opportunity
To forget.
Well, until you don't.
Or maybe I just keep it.
Well, I mean, then it'll
I'll
just
send
happen.
you a picture.
It'll happen at the right time. So it's fine. Final question, and then we'll do a wrap up.
All right. What do we got?
What advice would you give to someone who knows they need to change, but feels overwhelmed by the process?
I mean, I do this all the time, and it's like, it gets better. At first, it's a lot, but it does get better, and it gets a lot better. But it's hard work. You have to do the work. There's no easy way out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to get in.
Yeah.
That just kind of happens with, enjoying the process, but getting out is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest work is not quitting the substance. That's the easiest part of it. You know what I mean? The hard work is what we're talking about, like the getting to know yourself and being okay with yourself and being able to give yourself grace, and to being able to, like, deal with other people without making irrational decisions all the time. It's learning to be okay being alone.
Yeah.
And you with your quotes, me with my art, it's a way of us not trying to be alone, but it's a healthy coping mechanism for being alone. A lot of people I know with long term like to read. I mean, and reading is an excellent escape. I don't watch much TV, you know that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend TV to escape.
Yeah.
Maybe film.
Yeah.
Film is good, but most TV, like, sure, binge your show, but like that shouldn't. If you sit and watch TV all day every day, you're just gonna fall back into the same habits. Because the TV's telling you to be addicted. It's meant to be addicted. Something I like to tell people who are terrified is also, like, look around at people who have made it. Because all of us know somebody who quit before us, and all of us know somebody who hasn't quit yet. And it's kind of like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
The more you see people succeed, the more you think that you can do it. And
100%.
once you believe you can do it, you can can do it. Like I said, then you also need to get that thing to snap in your head where you're like, okay, this is it, I'm done.
Yeah.
But once you have that I'm done, and then the support structure, just do the work.
Yeah.
And people will show you the work. Like, it doesn't, like, oh, yeah, go to a therapist, and for the first time in your life, don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't lie to the therapist. Write the stuff down on a piece of paper that's going through your head and talk about that in therapy instead of the guy who cuts you off in traffic.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And your sponsor is not your therapist.
Yeah.
Neither is your boyfriend or your mom or your dad or any of those people. Get a licensed professional who can actually help you think through these things, because it's not the people who love you's responsibility for you to fix yourself.
Right.
It's yours.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's my main advice, I guess. What do you got? What do you tell people? Because I know you know people and are helping people.
So, I mean, when it feels overwhelming, like, I mean, it's gonna sound a little cliche, but it because it is. But I mean, ultimately, it boils down to just getting started. Like, break it down to very small pieces and start. And something that I've found works for me with that kind of stuff, like tasks that I don't want to do, or like things that seem really big that I don't want to put the time into. Give yourself 5 minutes. Let me just spend 5 minutes on it. If you can put in those first 5 minutes, a lot of times you'll find yourself 30 minutes later still doing it. So, like, just tell yourself 5 minutes. Give yourself just 5 minutes. Another kind of mentality shift that I really thought was kind of a cool way of shifting it, and this goes back to some other training that I got a while back that I thought was appropriate for this, but for this question, was to reframe it as, instead of looking at this task as something I have to do or something I need to do right now and I don't want to do, it feels overwhelming, this is a lot, oh my god, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Reframe this as, I'm giving myself, my future self, a gift.
Right.
Like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to appreciate that I got this done already. Like, this is going to be so nice that this is already done, or I'm glad I'm going to have this already taken care of tomorrow morning, or whatever it is. Like, reframing it as giving my future self a gift.
It's kind of mentality that you have to have with weight loss, because you do not lose weight quickly. I mean, I lost weight fairly quickly, but I did it very directly and specifically.
That comes from financial stuff. That was from one of the financial guys that I
talked to or
studied stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It was.
That's another Buffett quote.
Well, no, but a similar kind of online training thing. That's kind of the mentality that came from that. It was similar, like a compounding thing.
There's a scene in BoJack Horseman when he starts trying to get clean and he like goes running and he's like laying on the ground dying because he's been running and he's hungover and coming down off of everything. And there's this like guru guy who appears over the top of him and says, "It gets easier, but you got to do it every day, and then it gets easier." And that's really, I mean, that's the moral of the story for me. You just got to keep doing it every day.
Yeah.
It gets easier. Like, I mean, I'm in here rolling my back out before this thing because I haven't done it in a couple of days. My apartment's trash. Every day. My back feels so much better just by rolling it out every day. Imagine that.
Crazy how that works.
I know. I remembered that meme just now. You mind if I throw that in here? Okay, so it's like a little cartoon meme, and it's like, yeah, I can't stay mad forever, but I can stay mad until I die.
Yeah.
That was appropriate. I don't think we're gonna edit it, but that was meant to go like 10 minutes.
Well, it reminds me of the quote that says, build a man a fire and he'll stay warm for the night. Set a man on fire and he stays warm the rest of his life. Yeah.
That's
I think that's how that goes.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know, any final thoughts?
It's been a week.
Yeah.
I've been sick and it's been terrible. But
Welcome to real life.
I'm feeling better now. Yeah, and if you guys missed it, there was a bunch of shorts about my decision-making process on whether or not to take cold meds, and I only did it for a day and a half, and it was okay. It was okay to do it for a day and a half. But it's interesting to reflect on, triggers like that, and I wasn't worried necessarily that I was gonna go get a bottle of cough syrup and start using cough syrup, but my thought process behind why it's possible, I think, was important to share with the community and the viewers. So yeah, that was good. I'm glad I had the opportunity to help in that way. Hopefully it does help somebody to know it's okay to have those thoughts,
Absolutely.
And it's okay to have those thoughts and not act on them. Like, you're not alone out there.
Yeah.
There's lots of people like you and me.
Yeah.
I spent a great deal of time getting the Discord up and running.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it's in a really good place.
I hope that it's an excellent resource for you guys as a community. It's really designed to be as user-friendly as possible. I've got some good bots in there. The only thing it's lacking is a community. So get in there and talk about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
The link to the Discord will be down below.
Yeah. It's on our links on the main page and all of that too. So we definitely want to see you there. And I think, just overall, when we're talking about facing these big changes in life, there's a few kind of takeaways that I think kind of wrap up, summarize the what we were looking at in our process of making this decision and pulling the trigger on leaving this job, starting this process, and I think in general just making these big changes in life, whether it's getting clean, leaving a job, leaving a relationship, starting a company, starting a relationship, making a move somewhere, whatever those things are. I think that there's some important things that kind of underpin a lot of that help kind of guide that process and things that are important to rely on, I guess.
Sure.
And so a few of them that I thought of, and feel free to chime in or add to, but that I kind of thought of were like trusting your instincts, prioritizing your well-being and health.
I think, prioritizing your well-being is number one.
Yeah.
You have to keep yourself safe. And, by by safe, I mean, mentally, physically. Like, there's so many situations out there where if you put yourself there, you're not safe. And it's not necessarily only physical,
Yeah.
Like I said, it's, financially,
Yeah.
don't, anyway.
Yeah. Partnership, having good people in your life, whether that's, a relationship like in that regard, or just, friends, family, that kind of partnership, shared goals, with the people in your life, being open and communicating with them and talking about those goals and making sure that you're checking in with each other regularly to always be like, are we still heading in the same direction? Is this still where we want to go together? That's been absolutely crucial, for myself. That we check in regularly. We have through this process, and that's been extremely important for me.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had a couple, like, more than just this decision. You guys had a lot of decisions, like, one after another, after another, after another, after another.
French Toast is in here again. She likes to stop in, so that was her saying hi. She's a diva, so she's not going to spend long.
Well, you're clearly not paying enough attention to
obviously. Another one, embracing continuous learning and growth. I think that's been huge for me. That was a big deciding factor for me, was I realized that I'd kind of gotten to the extent of what I could do in that career, and but I continued to learn what I could and grow in that career, and I tried to pursue more.
Right.
And when it was apparent that that was as far as it was going, I still was prioritizing wanting to do more. And I know for you, with going back to school, like, that pursuit of learning and growing.
Yeah, well, I want the letters so that my ability to listen and my ability to help people rationalize their thoughts and feelings isn't just a wasted talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's great for my friends and for people who, like, know me intimately, but, I mean, I need to pay rent.
Yeah.
And if I'm already doing this, why can't I be a therapist? I mean,
right.
I think I said last week, it's like, well, I've taught all these people, like, how to find REBT. Like, well, why don't I just teach people how to rationalize their, thoughts and emotions,
right.
how to, sort everything and figure out. And it's not to say that, like, I want people who, care about me and are in my circle to start paying me for this stuff, but, like,
Right.
it'd be nice for people's insurance companies to pay me for this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, there's no reason why I can't do that, and because to me that's, like, it's rewarding to help people see the things they need to see in order to actually affect meaningful change on their lives.
Yep.
And I have no illusions about it. I know that, most people are just gonna, like, come in and bitch and know about their daily lives. But, I mean, that's fine because their insurance company is paying me for that too.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and that leads to, the next one is, finding meaningful work and, facing fears. And so, I think that's part of that, and so I think that's part of what compelled us both to also pursue this project, as well, because this is for me, the last job, it started with building a team that we were first and foremost there to help people.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and
mean, that's what we thought anyway.
well, but then when we found out that their intent was to switch it,
Yeah.
then fine. You know, that was no longer the purpose. No problem. I'm moving on to something else. And then what, you know, I started looking, you know, for podcasts that were doing what we're now trying to do,
Sure.
and had a hard time finding it. And then it was
Well,
like,
finding
well, why
people
not?
relatable anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like into, you know, lifted trucks and Jesus, there's probably podcasts out there for you.
Well, and, you know, I mean,
That's okay.
yeah, I mean, but
You can be into into monster trucks and Jesus, and still, I will love you, and you can stay here and listen to us too.
But you know, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, well, why not just make it ourselves? You know, I am, because of what I did in the last job, I'm confident that I built 2 different teams from scratch there and built all of the stuff. You know, I'm confident that I can learn the things I need to learn to do this too. So, like, skills that I learned in the last job, I'm confident in my ability to learn the stuff I need to do this too. Like, and so just building on that, you know, and facing that fear, and, you know,
it comes down to that at a certain point, you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, like, what am I doing with my life?
yeah, and finding that meaningful work.
Yeah.
And building that resilience, you know, continue to build, continue to learn. But also, I think part of that is staying humble and realizing that I don't know everything. I have more to learn. And looking at everybody that I meet as somebody that has something that they could teach me, that they've experienced things that I haven't, and because of that, that's a perspective that I don't share. And so, like, there is some point of view there that I haven't been privy to. So, like, there's something potentially for me to be able to learn from, not just teach to. And so, having that ability to stay humble is actually a superpower. Like, so, you know, there's I think it's a skill to have, to be able to, like, kind of humble up and have some humility and you know.
I think that's probably been the biggest change from, like, year 2 to year 3 has been, you know, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, where it's like, at first it was very, look at me, and now it's really like, I know I'm doing the right thing, and as long as I, you know, keep helping where I can, then I'm doing the best that I can in the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You threw me with that one. I'm still thinking about it.
It was a good one for me. It hit me. And then another big takeaway, I think, is focusing on our impact versus security. For me, when I thought about this, I thought about kind of picturing a visual of, like, taking over time, like just a stream eroding a cliff face over time. Like, I feel like the impact of that erosion versus the security of that rock, like, you know, and you know, the persistence and of just continuing to have that impact. That's what came to mind when I thought about the difference between those two. Like, the perception of security versus the importance of impact. Was kind of what I thought.
There's a canyon in my heart, Brett.
And then I think it's also important to, reassess regularly. I'm a big fan of the Lean Six Sigma process, which is constant reevaluation of, making sure that things are
Working the way they should.
efficient and working the way they should, and there's not things being done that are unnecessary. There's, and just a constant reevaluation.
With content creation, there's no such thing as unnecessary content.
And that might be true. But with just in life, going
Sure.
through and reassessing and reevaluating what we're doing. And I think that was an important part of this recent decision, was like, am I doing the right thing? Should I stay or should I go?
Right.
And then making the commitment to help others, I think, is the biggest takeaway.
But help in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately where we decided to end up, and I think we made the right choice.
I think so too. I mean, if we even help one person with this, then
yeah, and
we've done better than we would have if we had just sat on our butts at home.
I have this book out for a reason.
You want me to read it?
I want everybody to read it. It's Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Oh yeah, I should read that.
But I want to end our show today with a little blurb in here, because she's big on vulnerability.
Sure.
But the title of the book, Daring Greatly, is actually from the Theodore Roosevelt speech, Citizenship in the Republic, sometimes referred to as The Man in the Arena. It was delivered in France in 1910 by Teddy Roosevelt. And there's a famous passage in there. And it goes along with the theme of our show here, which is, making these big changes in life. And I think it's an appropriate way to end.
Okay.
So if you will allow me. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms and great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So, yeah, it's basically saying,
yeah, gotta keep going.
well, the critics don't count. It's the one actually out there trying. So, yeah.
That's why you gotta not have the loudest critic up here.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think that was a fantastic way to end.
I think that's a wrap.
All right. Like and subscribe, comment.
Hit the notification bell so you know when we're doing this again.
All right, love you guys.